And there was newspapers that came, take pictures, and they asked, and there's one guy tells me, when you do something again in the future, you look like the type of person who will do something again in the future, let me know. And he gave me his number, and in my mind I thought it's about to be very soon because I wrote a book and I'm going to publish it. And I sent that first book out to about 22, 23 plus publishers. All of them rejected me. Some didn't bother responding, some responded. And when publishers respond, they don't respond with, this is what you must change. They just say, no, thank you, done. There was only one publisher that responded with, hi Jacob, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be here. As you said, my name is Jantjies. I'm 27 years old. I grew up in Mitchell's Plain. I'm a born Cape Townian, and I love my country. I'm a biologist. I'm a teacher. I'm a martial artist, but mainly now I'm an author. I have currently 13 books published. Most of them are ebooks, but 9 are out in print. And I'm hoping that one day I can become a best-selling author. I know it from the bottom of my heart. I will become one day a best-selling author, and I'm working towards that goal every single day.
Carl, I know definitely that you will become a best-selling author. And 13 books is not a small number of books.
Yeah.
For a person of your age, and I will not give your age away now. But you said you grew up in Mitchell's Plain. So please tell me a little bit growing up in Mitchell's Plain in Cape Town. How was it for you?
For me, growing up in Mitchell's Plain, I don't know how other people relate to it, but I'm a bit of a weird person. A lot of people play outside. I didn't play outside much as growing up. If I did, somehow I always got hurt. But I wasn't very fond of playing outside. I didn't relate well to the people. I was more of the type of person who stays inside, read books. So grounding me was never an option. We got there by hidings. But in generally, when people speak of all the gangsterism and the bad influences in Mitchell's Plain, I never experienced it because first of all, I had very good parents. My parents they were very hands-on. My mother is a pastor, so she's also hands-on. I had very good models growing up. So I didn't experience the bad part of Mitchell's Plain. To me, my head was always in the mountains, in other worlds and stories. I love games, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! I watched a lot of anime, and I watched a lot of cartoons, played a lot of games. So I didn't ever experience the bad part of Mitchell's Plain that other people speak of. I keep hearing of, gangsterism, drug abuse, and I've seen it in other people, but it's never ever affected me. I've never felt that peer pressure either to get involved in those things because I had a good foundation in my home.
So growing up with your mother especially, and like you said, your mother and father grounded you, which is a great thing. So from there onwards, growing up in a very protected, I would say protected environment, you then had to kind of leave the nest and you have to go to high school. Yeah. So where did you attend high school, and how did you then finally end up in UWC doing molecular biology?
Okay, so I went to 2 different high schools. From grade 8 to grade 10, I was at the Rocklands High in Mitchell's Plain. From grade 11 to grade 12, I was at Mount View High School, that's in Hanover Park. So I went from a bit more safer area to a area that's a bit more, there's a lot more gangsterism, a lot more drug abuse, the people are more wild. But what I realized when I came to Mount View, the people are also very welcoming. There was no, just like I said, I never experienced the bad parts. The people that I connected to, they were all very good people. They were very welcoming. They took me in very easily. So, the schools that I was at was very good schools. From at grade 9, when they give us they give you your subject choices, my parents sat me down and they asked me, what do I want? And I told them, I don't want to sit in an office. That's not what I want to do. And I want to do something with animals because I love animals. And they decided, okay, the best thing then to do is to study biology. And I was very good at science. I was very academic. So I chose all the biology, subjects. And then I moved over to Mountain View, continued with that. In 2013, I matriculated, and I was valedictorian at my high school. The newspapers and everything was there. I got straight 7s, except for one code 6 in English, actually, which is weird because I became a writer. So I became valedictorian, and I actually wanted to go to UCT, but UCT required that you need physics, and I never had physics as a subject because when I chose my subjects, the bundles that they had for subjects was either you choose physics or life science, and I chose life science. But UWC was the only university that I applied to that actually had that you didn't require physics. So I went to UWC, and I don't regret it. UWC changed my life, and I think it was actually a good choice for me because the science faculty and the biology department, excellent lecturers, excellent academics. I'm very glad that I went there. I spent 3 years doing my undergrad. Then I had another year for honors. And then in 2018, I think I started with my master's degree. So, I'm still graduating from that.
Yeah, so, and it's also at UWC or during that time that you, I would say reconnected or finally decided you're going to write because you're a prolific writer.
It was slightly just before that, after I matriculated for... when I was in grade 11, I got an award for also being valedictorian for grade 11, and this doctor came. He was a neurologist. He came to school and he gave each of the top 3 a gift, and the gift was a small tablet. So I didn't have a laptop or a computer. I had a small tablet called a Momo. And then after matric, while I was waiting for my results, I had this idea for a book. So that's when I began. So in December, I wrote my first book. It was called The Infiltrators, and I wrote the book in a month. It was 50,000 words, and I was actually very surprised that I could write. Because in school when you write essays, it's 450. That's the end. But I managed to write 50,000 in a month, and I was very excited writing it. That was something that I remember very clearly. At the time, I used to share a bed with my brother, and then I tell him every night about this book that I'm writing, and he's irritated because he can't sleep. But this was a idea that was constantly in my head, and I kept talking about it, and I decided to write it on the little tablet. And then when varsity began, so I began sending out to publishers. And ever since then, that's how my writing journey continued.
So you literally started in high school, starting right towards the end of your high school career, and then you continuously writing while you were still studying at UWC. So that is amazing, amazing too. But this is the amazing part, and I don't think a lot of people know that in 2021 you wrote a series, 9 books, and that series is called Journey of Soul series. So please tell me, when did you start writing in this particular series, and how did it kind of came out of you?
So in 2021 I had a goal. My goal was to write and publish 10 books. That was my goal. I don't know why I chose that goal, because most authors, they only publish like two books a year. So I think I just chose it on a whim. So I decided 10 books is what I want to do. And I had already an idea I was busy publishing my one book called The Cloete. That book actually almost won an award, I should say, top 5. And then I had the idea for the series. And the series was this soldier who is everybody in the world that I created, they have these gifts. right? So some can control fire, some can control water, some can speak to animals. Everybody has a gift, but this one is born without a gift, and his main goal is to become the world's greatest soldier. So he pushes to become that, but it's very difficult, obviously, in this world where everybody has a gift and you don't. So in book number 1, he goes out in search of power. So I've named book 1 of the series, The Search for Power. And then from that, when he gets his power, it's just a build up to him becoming, the greatest soldier that he is. So I published all 7 in that year, plus the one that I already put, the Cloete that I published before that came to 8 books. And then at the end of around 3 months before the end of the year, I was tired because it was, I wrote and published 8 books already, and I needed to go a little further because the goal was 10. So I wrote and I published another book called Escapism, and that published in beginning of December or end of December. And then finally, I didn't manage to get to the 10th book, but so I got to 9 books in that year.
9 is still...
Yeah, I'm proud of it.
Yeah, it's 90%, man. It's amazing. But here's the amazing thing is that you brought the books. But today, so I think the audience would be quite interested to see how the series look and a way that you can get some of the books.
So this is the series in its entirety. From book 1 to book 7, it's in a box set. The box set is available throughout South Africa. If you want the box with everything in, you can order it either from Porcupine Press or you can order it from me directly. But book 1 and book 1 of the series, which is this, The Search for Power, this is now available in exclusive books, bargain books, Wordsworth books, a few different bookstores across South Africa. And book 2 is being ready to, they were about to send it out through to the bookstores. So yeah, it's a 7-book series. This is how book 7 looks. Oh, sorry. That's how book 7 looks. I think it came out very beautifully. So it was a big investment for me because I decided to self-publish this series. I have books that's traditionally published to a publisher. This one I decided to self-publish, and that it cost a lot of money because I have to pay for all the covers, everything to be made. But I'm so glad that it came out because it came out the way that I wanted. That was something that I really wanted when I did the series, and I think it came out very nice because I have maps in there also that I created, and I'm just very proud and very blessed of what I've done with the series. I had people to buy the series and the reviews are just something. But if you're not in South Africa and you want the series, it's also available on Amazon Kindle. Book 1 is actually available on Amazon for free. So what I do especially for my newsletter, I give them the book for free because I believe that if you want to get invested into the series, best way is to read book 1 and make it easy for them, read it for free. And then if you like book 1, you can go on to the next. And usually they go on to the next because they love book 1. So, yeah.
That is amazing, man. So, I want to go a little bit into the journey. Because this is kind of the end product.
Yeah.
That people see it like, that's amazing, man. It was my words after you explained it. Like, that is amazing. But the one thing I've learned as a documentary filmmaker is success comes with hard work and a lot of rejection. So, and your journey definitely wasn't an easy one. You experienced about 7 years of rejection before your first book was published. Please tell us about that journey.
So, in 2013, when I began writing, I wrote a book called The Infiltrators, and that's still a book that I'm very passionate about. I can talk about that a bit later, but I was very passionate about that book, and I thought this was it. I think at the time I was very cocky, because in 2014, when we got our results, and there was newspapers that came, take pictures, and they asked, and there's one guy tells me, when you do something again in the future, you look like the type of person who will do something again in the future, let me know. And he gave me his number. And in my mind, I thought it's about to be very soon because I wrote a book and I'm going to publish it. And I sent that first book out to about 22, 23 plus publishers. All of them rejected me. Some didn't bother responding. Some responded. And when publishers respond, they don't respond with, this is what you must change. They just say, no, thank you, done. There was only one publisher that responded with actually comments, and the comment was, great idea, bad writing. So that was what I had to work on. And I was a little, downtrodden from that, but I kept pushing because I kept getting ideas for books, and I decided I want to keep pushing. And at the time, I told nobody that was writing. The only people I knew I was writing was the people in my house. And I'm a born-again Christian. I pray a lot. I went to a prayer meeting, and I believe in prophecy. And there was a prophet there who told me he sees me writing stacks and stacks of books. And nobody knew I was writing. This is 2014. And I got another idea for a book. This was a dystopian series. Dystopian means you're living in a very bad world. Everything is, falling apart, and a hero comes. So I wrote that book again, sent it through to all the publishers. All of them rejected me again. And I started now feeling, bad. Maybe fantasy is not my genre. I started doubting my stuff, but I kept getting ideas for fantasy novels. But I thought maybe fantasy is not my genre. And I had this idea for a Christian fiction novel, and I began writing that. I think that was in 2017. 2017, I wrote this Christian fiction novel, and that book took me 6 months to write. And the reason I think it took me that long is because it's not my genre. So it cost me a bit more time to put in, more effort to put in, because when you don't enjoy something, it's difficult to write. And I enjoy writing fantasy. So that Christian fiction novel was difficult. That book is out now, but I published it years later, only as an ebook. And I don't promote it as much because I don't feel like it's all me. So I wrote that, sent it through, also rejected quite a few times. And then in 2018, 2019, I began writing another book, fantasy book. That's called, that's the first book that I published. It's this book, The Turlock Triangle. This book is, again, I went back to fantasy and I wrote it out. This book is based on something that I would love to do one day. It's a tag team tournament. So I'm very close with my cousin, and we love, both of us love martial arts, and we love challenges and all these things, gladiator things. So in the book, two cousins, they go on to a tag team tournament where they have to complete 9 challenges in 9 months within 9 provinces, and they have to walk, all the way. And there's a whole lot of things that happen. There's an assassin that goes out. They have to beat the other competitors. There's a girl that's she's on the run from a national syndicate, so they try to save her. So there's a whole lot of different challenges and things that they have to go through. But as I was writing the book, halfway, I like watching a lot of motivational and inspirational videos. I watched a video called The Power of Planning. And in this book, it says, if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. And I realized that's what was wrong with all these other books that I wrote. There was no planning. I had an idea in my head, and I just wrote. But there was no planning, there was no structure that I put to the book. So I wrote already 44,000 words of this book, and I decided, no, I have to redo this thing. So I deleted all those words, and then I began structuring every chapter, what happens in each chapter. In each chapter, I want 4 scenes in each chapter, so I can have uniformity in every chapter. Who are the main characters? Who are the side characters? Who are the side characters? Who dies? Who doesn't die? Who lives? Is there a romance? Where's the build up? Where's the climax going to be? How am I going to build the romantic tension? How am I going to build the dramatic tension? All those things. What do I want the main theme of the book to be? How does this character relate to that? I know he's a funny character maybe, but when he's with this person, how does he, So I had to plan all those things out, and then I began structuring the book. Because usually when I wrote books, it just ended up being however chapters. And I structured it. I want 16 chapters. And it came out to 16 chapters, and then finally the book came out as it is. It's 88,000 words, 16 chapters. I edited it about 4 times. I watched a video on YouTube how to edit, because I wanted, this to be the book that comes out, because I was very, passionate about this book. And I sent this through also to a few different publishers. Most of them also rejected me, but there was one publisher in KwaZulu-Natal called Malherbe Uitgewers. They accepted the book, and this was my first book that got published. And in 2017, when I was a little bit downtrodden, I prayed and I asked God, why is this not? Because I had the prophetic word, I'm going to write books. And the prophetess told me she sees me publishing in 2020. But in 2019, they accepted the book, and I told them I want the book published in 2020. There's a concept in Christianity, when Jesus gets baptized, he says, let me do it so that the scripture may be fulfilled. So I said 2020, so that the scripture is fulfilled, the prophecy is fulfilled. So 2020, this came out as my first book. And then this year, I decided I'm not too happy with this cover. It's a bit, amateurish for me. So I changed it to this cover, paid money to get the cover changed, and I'm happy with how it came out. So that was my first book. And that was traditionally published. And there's something with, I could have self-published all my other books long before that also, because self-publishing you can do for free on Amazon Kindle. You just have to get a cover. But at the time I didn't have any money. I wasn't working, I was a college student. I had no money, so I needed a publisher, because a publisher will pay all the expenses for you. So I waited till I got a publisher. And it's also, it says something if somebody else has accepted your work. So I wanted a publisher, and I finally got one for this one. So,
congratulations, man. That is amazing. And especially I like the part where you say that a prophecy, where it's foretold.
Yeah.
You have to follow.
Yeah, I might include it in one of my books.
that would be amazing. So let's talk a little bit about storyboard, because writing a series is not easy, and to keep readers interested and to keep the story going, there needs to be a very interesting storyboard. So and these characters in the storyboard, they have to live in this world. So how do you build a storyboard? How do you go about it, and how do you add dimensions to this particular storyboard, especially fantasy?
I would say first, the number one thing is don't force it, because if this is something that you're passionate about, it shouldn't be forced. And if something is forced, it's not going to be something that you enjoy that's coming out. It's going to be a lot of stress and things. One book that I don't want to speak about is The Cloete. So this is one of the books that came out in 2021. This book I wrote in 10 days. I was very excited to write this book. I'm a biologist, so I love, and I feel I'm an adventurer, so I love, going out. And one of the places I've always wanted to go to is the Congo. And I watched a documentary on this hidden dinosaur that might be in the Congo called Mokolembembe. And I thought, I'd love to go. And I went online to search tickets and stuff, and it was, $10,000, which comes to that. At that time, it was about over 100,000 rand. And I thought, I don't have this money. So I decided, let me rather write a book about somebody who goes. And then I started building the world. It's difficult when it's based on a real place. So Congo is based on a real place. So if you want to build a world, I had to go online, get a map of Congo. Then I had to build a fictional town inside the real map. And then for that, what I did was I drew maps. I love drawing maps, because it helps me realize where every character is, how they're walking, and all those things. If it's pure fantasy, then map making is the best thing to do, because you want to put the reader also into the book, and the reader needs to know where everything is. So, for example, in this book I have, you will see here I have a map. So there's fantasy maps that I did. So this is to show the reader, so the reader can actually follow along what is happening in the world. So the number one thing is to do when you want to make a world, through a map. And then from there you can base where your characters go. I know what my characters want to do. I know what's the main plot, what's the main outcome. But the steps to getting there, they have to follow something along on the map. So I make a map first, and then along that map I can plot points. This is what I want happening here. This is what I want happening here. I know I need to put that scene in somewhere. Where will I put it? I'll put it in this part of the map. So the map is like it's not a rigid guideline, but it's something that just helps you along your way. So if you want to build a world, make sure you start with a map, especially if you're writing fantasy. Then another thing, especially like for this novel, what I did was I had the main antagonist and I had the main character, but I thought that's not enough. I need to add more elements because I can't just have these two. So what I did was I created now third party struggles. These are now your morally grey. They're helping the character and they're fighting against the character's main goal. So in the small run, maybe they assist in the character, but in the end goal, they're against the character. And then each series, if you plan out the series especially, you're going to plan every series, book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, all of the books from the beginning before you start writing book 1. Because you want to put some foreshadowing in so that when they read book 7, they realize, oh, this is what they meant in book 1, this is what they meant in book 2. So before you actually start writing any book of the series, you need to structure every book of the series. So you can't just, write nilly-willy. And so now I have certain things in book 3 that you will only understand at the end maybe of book 7. I have things in book 2 that you get in book 4. And that's all because of the planning that comes out. All the maps that I have 2 different set of maps in the book. The one book is based on the main kingdom. The second map is the world. And I'm doing that now for the new books that I'm writing. So planning is a very big important thing. Like for in the book also, I said they have gifts. One thing that I really struggled with, because I'm a born again Christian, I was wondering, am I, what's the word I'm looking for? Am I encouraging demonic activity here? Because I don't want to do that. And I thought, how do I reconcile these superpowers with Christianity? And then I saw there was a group on Facebook called the Filmmakers Consortium. And all of these are fantasy Christian writers. And they gave me some links and things, and they showed me J.R.R. Tolkien was a born-again Christian. He wrote Lord of the Rings. C.S. Lewis was a theologian, and he wrote the books of Narnia. And what I had to learn was, when you have superpowers and these kinds of things, you have to make sure that there's a clear distinction between what is good and what is evil. You can't have the character using his powers for evil and then you still reward him for that. So my character, again, when I did something, you will read it in the book, when he does something evil with his power that he gets, then there's always a backlash to it. There's always a consequence to it. So I make sure there's a clear distinction between light and evil. And then with the gifts and the supernatural part, I realized the Bible is a supernatural book. For example, there's people here whose their gift is air. So they can move very fast and things. Elijah could overtake a chariot because, Samson had super strength. Elijah also called down fire. Moses parted the waters. So the Bible is a very supernatural book. In the Adam spoke with animals in the garden. So the Bible is a supernatural book. So what I did was I incorporated that into the Bible into my series. So there is a little bit of the book is not focused on Christianity and it's not focused on the Bible, but there's always a small snippet of it in there. Because, I am a born-again Christian and I want that also to be shown. But even if an atheist reads it or a Muslim reads it, I doubt that they would pick up on it. Because this is something that's not really... it's not something that's forced on the reader.
So, but in all religions and even non-religions, there's good and evil. There's moral, there's good and bad. So... I think what your books does is it has the moral code.
Yeah, exactly.
That all religions or all societies can relate to.
Yeah.
So thank you for also for carefully thinking about it, because a character sometimes people
Yeah.
personifies with a specific
Yeah.
character, and a person with superpowers can't be almighty
Yes, exactly.
or without
Yeah.
person. So I think that's something amazing that you kind of build into your character development. That when you use your power for bad, there is always going to be kind of a negative repercussion. You're going to get a backlash from it.
Yeah. When I speak at schools, one of the things that I like to push forward is the idea of heroes. So I like, for example, I don't agree with gender-based violence. I don't think men should be women. So what I do is I think men should be heroes. They should be protective. They should be caring, you know. So I make my main character have those traits, because when people read the book, or one day when it becomes a movie, and it will become a movie, when they start to relate to the character, they want to be like the character. So if the character is somebody that beats women, they're going to learn to become like that character. If this is somebody who is protective, they care about right and wrong, and they do have, human struggles, but overall they choose good instead of evil. Then when the reader reads it, and they start to relate to it, they become wanting to be a hero like the character. So that's something that I push forward always, especially if I speak at schools. That's something I push forward.
And that's where I'm going. I want you to speak about your teaching career, because you're also a maths teacher. So why did you decide to take up teaching?
Oh, that was actually, it was something that was just brought forward to me. So I told you I was a valedictorian at the school. And in 2018, when I began my master's degree, the principal called me. This is now 2 days before school began. It's the same school. The principal was actually my uncle, and my mother teaches at the same school. And what happened was the maths teacher suddenly quit 2 days before school began, and they needed a quick replacement. So the principal called me, and he asked me, would I be willing to come and teach? Now, I don't have a teacher's degree, but I have 2 degrees in biology, and I did pure maths. So, I got code 7s for pure maths. And, maths is one of my passions. That was actually my second option. So if I didn't get biology, I would have done maths. So he called me up, do I want to start? And I decided, okay, this is a little bit out of my comfort zone, because that's not what I do. I haven't had any experience teaching. I've done tutoring and things, and I've took after classes, but I've never actually, had a class. But I decided, I could use the money. So I went, and I found out I'm actually very good at this. I think I have very good work ethic. I'm not a lazy person. I could relate well to the learners, but in a very professional manner. So I found out, okay, I enjoy teaching. There are some struggles, and the good part of it is there's a lot of teachers willing to help you learn. If you are willing to learn, that's the thing, because I've seen a few teachers not willing to learn. So I'm willing to learn. So they showed me your problem here was you didn't have the correct paperwork. Your problem was you smiled a little too much with the children. So they took advantage of your youngness. Because at the time, I think I was 24, 25 when I began teaching. So you learn on the job what you do, what you don't do. And every year since then, I've stayed there now, it's my 4th year now. Every year since then, I've grown, and I feel like I've gotten better. I feel like I'm becoming one of the best teachers there, at least in my subject. Maybe class discipline is where I have to still work on, but when it comes to teaching maths, I have children from other classes who I don't even teach. They come to me after classes because I'm passionate about maths. I love maths, and I feel I'm a good teacher in maths. I teach geography also. I teach life science. So I'm actually enjoying the teaching, and I teach at church also. So occasionally I teach in church, like I taught on Sunday in church. And I can see now that skill is carrying over into church. If I go speak at a university, that skill carries over. I would love to lecture one day at a university. That's what I would like to do. Because if you lecture, you also have free time to go and do work in the field. And I would love to work in the field. So I would love to lecture. I would actually also like to start my own writing lectures. So for people who want to become writers one day, I would love to have a series of lectures on that also, where they can learn, and then I can help them step by step with it. But yeah, so I've enjoyed working in, and it's in a bad community. There's a lot of those children that come, they grade 8, they can't read. You'll be surprised, they can't read at all, they can't spell. But you will find out these are very nice children. Even if they have a lot of these problems, mainly it's because of trauma. But when you get to know them and you start to relate to them, you'll find out they're very nice. They just need a little push.
And I wanted to speak about that specific part, especially comprehension, because like you said, they can't read at that age. So from your experience as a teacher, would you say reading improves comprehension of learners to solve complex mathematical problems or just problems in general?
I would say that that's something I have spoken out in my classes, because if they do maths and the question is there and it's phrased a certain way and you don't understand what question is being asked, they can read, but they can't read with understanding. So they read it and they have no idea what is being asked. They know their work. If you one thing that I've always picked up with them, if you ask them a question, because I teach geography also, and I've seen especially in my geography classes, if you ask them a question face to face, they can give you the answers just like this. But as soon as the question comes on paper, like in an exam, completely different, and it's the exact same question, they don't know what's going on because they can't read with understanding. So they have no idea now what's being asked because it's on paper. But if you ask them immediately after the exam, you ask them the same question, they can give you the answer. But on the paper, it's a very different thing they gave you because they don't have that comprehension skills. So what I did was I opened up a reading club at the library at the school. So the school has a library. So every Wednesday, first interval, all the learners come there and we read. And if I go to speak somewhere, like when I went to go speak at Adam Small Literary Festival, I took the reading club with me. So they can also experience different places, because a lot of them haven't even been out of their community. So now they go to see a whole different new place. They get to meet people. So when I go out, I take them with me. And then some of them, I hosted in the beginning of this year, I hosted a writing competition for short stories, and people didn't want to hand in. And there was, it's free gifts. Only one learner handed in one, so she won the gifts. I gave her my whole set of books. And what I wanted to do actually for the children was, if I get enough short stories from them, then we can publish the book as a school book. And they will be considered published authors. From the short stories, we'll have a collection of short stories. Only one learner gave in, because the others, they just won't make the effort. Some of them told me they have good ideas, but they won't make the effort to sit down and write. That's something that's in the community.
All right, but you see, I would love to kind of a follow-up conversation, especially with your experience as a teacher, and especially my problem all of these years has been basic education. I think basic education rob and strip learners of their creativity.
Yes, I agree.
Especially the type of curriculum that we have. And it starts as early as grade 1. You remove all of the creativity in grade 1, grade 2, especially a foundation phase where children still have to experience and explore. They have to go into reading and writing and so where is the creativity?
I agree. There was a Carl Sagan. He's a physicist, deceased. So he says, if you go into a school at grade 1 and you go there and you speak to the children, they ask all these amazing questions. Why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green? They ask a lot of questions. As soon as you go to high school and you ask them this and you speak to them, all that questions are gone. They don't anymore have any. They don't have questions about the world anymore. So somewhere along the line, something terrible happened where they lost all of their creativity. I was actually speaking to my cousin today, and I said, if I became a president one day, one thing I would do is, first of all, I would start. I would remove cat as a subject choice in grade 10 and start cat at grade 2, because these children, they know how to use phones at that age. So why not use computers? And we're in a computer age. So let them start learning how to use computers from a young age. Everybody should be able to use a computer. A lot of those children who want to read and write, the girl that wrote the short story, she wrote 1,000 words hand because she don't know how to use a computer. Grade 10. She does other subjects, so she doesn't know how to use. You understand? So I think everybody should be able to use computers. So that's something I would put in. From a younger age, I would maybe like grade 6, I would start where they actually branch off into their fields, because I don't understand why old children have to still learn certain things that's not beneficial to them. If you know you want to go into art, push for it. If you know you want to go into science, start science early, get rid of all that unnecessary things, because I feel people are specialized. So you need to find your gift in the world. Find what there's a concept that I always talk about also when I go to schools. Every person has a gift. Everybody has a gift. God put that gift in them. So when they need to go out in the world, what they have to do is they need to find their gift and they need to master their gift. And education, Nelson Mandela says, education is the key to success. I think education in your gift is the key to success. Because education in anything is not going to really benefit you if you don't enjoy it. If you don't have a talent in it, you don't have a skill for it. The Bible says your gift will make room for you. So if you have a gift, your education is just to polish that gift. I found out I enjoy writing. I never learned how to write. But I found out I enjoy writing. I enjoy making up stories. And for the last 7 years, what I've been doing is I've been learning how to polish that writing gift, how to make it better. So in schools, what they should do is find a way to identify the learner's gift early. And when they find that gift, then you just start polishing that gift. You don't need all these other extra subjects. There's some children who they're not academically inclined. They're better with their hands, so let them do that. They're more artistic. There's no reason for them to go through all of those things. Because you will see grade 8, grade 9, certain subjects are just failing. But as soon as that learner goes over to grade 10 and they can choose now their choices, now you'll see their marks start picking up because this is something that they enjoy. It gets even better when you go to university. Now they love being there because it's only the subjects that they want to do. There's no extra. You understand? So if you have, they should, in schools, especially in the foundation age, I spoke to some of the teachers and I said, when you have a child, the reason why I did so well was because when I was young, especially from grades 1 to grade 3, my mother put me in a very good foundation phase school. So if your foundation is good, no matter what school you go out to after that, you're going to excel because your foundation was good and strong. Those children, they don't go to good schools, primary schools. They don't have good foundations. So when they come there, they come grade 8, they can't read. And you ask yourself the question, what did they do in the primary schools? They just sent you over because in grade 7, there's no final systemic test like in matrics have. There's no test in grade 7. So if the primary schools don't want the children there, just push them over. You understand? If this is a child that gives problems, push them over. So that's something that I would put in for the school. There's a lot of things I would change about the education system.
And we need to have that conversation for another time. So we have about 5 minutes left. So I quickly want to speak about your martial arts. You got into martial arts. So Why did you take up martial arts?
I've always loved martial arts. So when I was young, I've always wanted to do martial arts. My mother said no. It's money. So once I started working, I was able to pay for my own classes. That's what I did. So I found a poster of a school of ninjutsu in Mitchell's Plain. So it was easy. I could walk to the class, and the prices was cheap. So I went and I joined immediately, and I've been there for 5-6 years, I think now. And since then, I've been learning a lot. I got now my black belt. I got my black belt in this year, in March. So that's something that I'm very proud of. And I've always had that joy for martial arts, action. And I put that also in my books again. There's a phrase I always use: interests make you interesting. So the more interest you develop, the more interesting of a person you become, the more you can speak about things. And I put all those interests in my writing. I love adventure, so I put adventure in my writing. I love romance. I'm not ashamed to say it. I love romance. So I put it in my writing. I love martial arts and fighting and swords. I bought me a sword. I love swords. I put swords in my writing. I love animals. I put those in my writing, because the more you love something, the more easier it is to write about it. So if you're forcing something out, whatever comes out, you're not going to be proud of it.
Right.
So
here's an interesting question before we conclude. If you have to bet on a fight between Donnie Yen and Bruce Lee, what do you think?
I can't give a black and white answer on that, because I'm not that much a fan of Donnie Yen's style. I think, what's it called again? The IP man. I'm trying to get his style's name. But it's a very close combat fighting, so a lot of that. I'm not a big fan of that, because you have to get in to a fight. But if you're in a normal fight, people usually just swing. So unless you can find a way to get in and then start doing all your moves, move your hands very quickly, it's not going to work very well. But Bruce Lee, he's more of he's a quick fighter. So he can get in and get out very quickly, and I think that's something that you should be able to do in a fight. So if I had to bet on somebody, I would bet on Bruce Lee. And Donnie Yen said it himself, Bruce Lee is the greatest ever. So I would bet on Bruce Lee, and because they're basically the same size, so it would all come down to technique and skill.
In the room, because
yes.
If it's in a toilet,
then I would say Donnie Yen. If it's in the toilet, I would say Donnie Yen. On the street, I'd say Bruce Lee. If it came down to a wrestling match, Donnie Yen, he's better at grappling. But overall, as a better fighter, I would say Bruce Lee.
All right. Kyle, we came to the end of our interview. So what is next for you, and where can people get your books, and how can they connect with you? Anyone watching this?
What is next? I'm busy writing now a new trilogy. That's actually the very first book that I wrote about that I got so many rejections on. That book is still on my mind. I believe that if something is on your mind constantly, I believe that's an idea from God. So now I'm rewriting that book. I deleted everything that I wrote about that book. I made a new map. I'm structuring it out properly, so I'm busy on that. It's going to be a trilogy. And then after that, I have another 10 book series that I want to write after that. And then after that, I also want to do some theology books. But that's what I'm busy with. If you do want to get in contact with me, I would suggest you can either contact me on Facebook, my Facebook page, Carl Jantjies Author. I'm on Instagram at kbjantjies. I have a website, www.carljantjiesauthor.com. And on my website also you can get a free book from me. So as soon as you subscribe to my newsletter, you get a free book.